Story 1. Pretty much all the cliches you always hear about when men fall in love. She is the first thought in my mind when I wake up and the last thought in my mind at the end of the night. Every time I see her, I can imagine countless romantic moments and even more moments where we are just living our lives together, experiencing all the couple moments. First dates, parties, a major fight, lying on the couch watching television, and it still feels like heaven. I look at her and I want to try to become better, not because she is asking me to be better, but because I believe I can be more than what I am and I want to be that for her. In the past, when she was in front of me, we had that moment where I somehow found more courage than I usually have. I took a step towards her, leaned in, and kissed her. It felt like time stopped, and it was just the two of us, like something from a romance film. I felt as if I was seeing a 360-degree shot of us kissing from the outside. To be in love is to discover something I didn't know I wanted, and losing her and that feeling makes me wish I never knew what love was to begin with. Yet, I still search for that feeling again because I have never felt happier. Story 2. Fear. Falling in love is a beautiful thing, but it comes with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of loss, and fear of major life changes. Falling in love represents a shift in your life's path. Change, whether good or bad, is often uncomfortable at first. Story 3. It depends on who it is. The fastest I fell in love was with my wife. On the first day we met, we had a 4-hour conversation over coffee. Around the second hour, I lost all bodily control. My stomach felt like butterflies. My mind was empty and full at the same time, and it all felt euphoric. I fell in love with her on that first day, and it's ironic because she felt the same way. Story 4. When you realize you feel completely safe being yourself and look forward to the time spent together, the attraction has a depth that feels unique. The level of respect, appreciation, observation of details, and reciprocity increases significantly. Both of your lives improve because of what each brings, and your priorities begin to shift because you would not have it any other way. Story 5. I want her to be safe. I want her to be happy. I think I want her. I hope she will let me try to make her happy. Story 6. Speaking for myself here. I knew that my wife was the one by our third date. We went for cocktails and karaoke at the pub near my house, had too much to drink, and held each other as we hobbled back to my place to sober up. She spent the night at my place on her own terms. I never coerced her to stay, and I passed out first, so nothing happened. But when I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, she was gone. No note, no text messages, no goodbye, nothing. Felt like my heart dropped into my stomach and anxiety set in. Fearing that was the last time I would see her, panic gripped me. I just sat on the toilet because I was still lightheaded and didn't trust my aim in that state, and then the tears began to fall. I finished and flushed, wiped my eyes with a towel, and then she walked in with 2 popsicles from my freezer and handed me one. A sudden sense of relief washed over me. Falling in love is both scary and wonderful. We dated for 3 more years. I proposed on Christmas, and we were married on August 1st last year. Our anniversary is coming up soon, and I can't wait to show her my traditional paper gift. Story 7. I want to eat her alive in a spiritual way. It's like having a best friend you're comfortable with and want to share your life with. You want to be attached, but as individuals because you love who they are. If I say I love someone, I would die for them, burn the world for them if I knew I had to. It means that as a man trying to be a man of faith, I place you in line with my priorities right after God. Story 8. For me, falling in love with my wife is a feeling unlike any other. I can look into her eyes and feel completely at ease, excited, infatuated, deeply in love, and protective all at the same time. I think about her and what she means to me at all times of day and night. If I have a bad day at work, I imagine her smiling at me and giving me a hug. I consider ways to make her happy and loved always. If she is struggling, I stop everything to help and support her, not because I feel obligated, but because I know how lucky I am to have her in my life. Story 9. Finding peace and friendship. Most days, I want to share the cool things that happen to me with my girlfriend. It's about being excited and proud of the person you are with. Time never feels like a chore, and you always feel safe. Ignore the misinformation that the internet presents. Find a close friend who makes you feel like a kid again. Story 10. When you look into her eyes and she looks back into yours, everything feels slightly abnormal because you feel both strong and weak at the same time. You feel excited yet terrified. The truth is you don't understand how you feel, but you know the kind of man you want to become. It's as if you've reached the unattainable, and you weren't prepared for it. Story 11. I am only speaking for myself when I try to express my experience. I realized she was someone I wanted to have a long-term relationship with. As time went on, I felt more at peace. However, I began to feel stressed about the possibility of losing her. My attraction to her increased with more distance. I want to change and grow happily. I would do almost anything for her to ensure she feels safe, happy, and loved in the way she desires. Story 12. Easy the first time. Wild, beautiful, and perfect. Terrifying every other time. You feel so much pain from the end of your first love that you vow never to let anyone hurt you like that again. The problem is you cannot truly love someone without letting your guard down, without risking the suffering of losing someone. You know this deep down, but you try to do it anyway. You attempt to love safely. You find out pretty quickly that it is impossible because you rob your partner of the connection and intimacy she is searching for, something she instinctively knows you are withholding. She takes you to the edge. She is ready to leap with you by her side. But each time you pull back. You evade the risk of getting hurt and become difficult to read, cold, and distant. She never says it, but she knows you are afraid, and it saddens her. Then the sadness becomes frustration, and the frustration becomes a chasm neither of you can cross. It is the death of love, and this is how it goes for you. You blow up one relationship after another, and nothing changes. You reach the same threshold every time and choose to withdraw. You are still so afraid to dive into the depths of suffering you experienced in the past. Many men stay here, caught in the space of desperately wanting something they are too afraid to pursue. But some of us wake up to the fear inside and acknowledge what it is costing us. We recognize that risk and aliveness are intrinsic to each other. Love is a death-defying leap. Gain and loss are the climbs and descents on the roller coaster of our lives. Maybe we make friends with our fear and pain. Maybe we realize we are willing to pay the price, whatever it may be, to be one with another. Often, this happens because we meet someone we care about so much that it is worth risking being crushed by their absence in our lives for the chance to have them in it. That is what love feels like for a man. Story 13. Knowing you are risking everything for this person and cannot stop it, you are drawn to them despite what your mind is telling you. It is the absolute worst thing that can happen to a person. Story 14. Man, I love these questions. It just started happening to me again. I rarely see her, but when I do, my whole world brightens up. Color literally returns to my life. I feel like every time we talk, we discover we have more things in common. We reference things and immediately click without even finishing. We laugh at each other's jokes, talk during movies, and make silly jokes. We share a lot of the same interests, and honestly, I find myself wanting to see her more often. I would run to her if she wanted me to. If our circumstances were different, I would have asked her out months ago. I would tell her that she's a breath of fresh air and that she makes my heart race whenever I see her. Her laugh is a symphony to my heart. I'm treating our relationship like a butterfly, though. I'm afraid that if I misstep, she might fall to the ground, and I'd never see her fly again. I hope the day comes when we can sit together side by side, and I can feel her hand clasp mine and her cheek rest on my shoulder. Story 15. Just wanted to say, as a woman, this is the sweetest comment section I have ever read. I love when men express their emotions, especially when they express love. Men often don't get very poetic, but when you ask them about love, they do. Story 16. In a relationship, there is a peaceful clarity about your feelings for someone. Outside of a relationship, it can feel overwhelming because you can't really act on those feelings, which can create problems for yourself. As a result, you may find yourself constantly suppressing your emotions and struggling against your impulses. Story 17. You go to bed smiling, wake up happy, and experience a deep sense of responsibility to care for, protect, and provide. Story 18. Liking a girl's figure leads to spending time with her to get to know her, feeling happy to be in her presence, and realizing that I want her in my life. For me, it's a mix of being emotionally vulnerable with her and her investing time to learn about me. I tend to fall for girls who only see me as a friend, and the reason for that is that I'm focused on my emotional experiences. I constantly wonder why I can only be seen as a friend and not as a boyfriend or husband. Story 19. The best feeling in the world is when everything seems good. It's hard to harbor negative feelings for someone. However, after a breakup, it can give you nightmares. You never truly get over it. I once had a gun pointed at me, and it was the most haunting experience of my life. Now, I have a new trauma. Story 20. The first few times it was bliss. Now, if I sense that I am developing a crush, it makes me feel uneasy, and I shut it down immediately. Story 21. I was completely unaware until the first time I saw her cry and the feeling of utter despair I felt in that moment. I will never forget it. Lucky for me, ordering pizza and dancing with her instantly made her happy and silly. I thought to myself, we never want to see her like that again, so let's feed her and dance with her. It worked so well. It was like having a relationship cheat code. All I wanted to do was make her laugh. It was my favorite thing in the world. The heartbreak side of things was rough. I couldn't focus on anything for at least 8 months. Story 22. An eagerness to see her makes you feel like a child. You get butterflies in your stomach when you know you have a date. Story 23. Obsession often leads to the perception that the other person is perfect, accompanied by an intense fear of losing them or being cheated on. There's a constant desire to be with them, to love them unconditionally. The saying goes, women are like cats and men are like dogs, highlighting the differences in emotional expression. You want to solve their problems, ensure their happiness, and reassure them that they are loved and valued, always promising to be there for them. Story 24. It's a magical mystery tour and very challenging to describe. It is the most beautiful experience I have ever had, and I have been blessed with it quite a few times. I am currently in the early stages with someone who has potential. To me, being an old-school romantic, it feels like scenes from movies. For instance, I met a woman yesterday, we talked a little, and I felt a spark of attraction. I got in my car and was halfway out of the parking lot when I turned around, got back out of my car, and simply asked her for her phone number. When she texted me back after my initial message, I told her I had come back because I just had to have her number. Felt so inspired and compelling. The feeling of inspiration is a good starting point when trying to describe it. We shall see how it goes. Story 25. All of a sudden, there is someone who is more important than yourself. Their happiness and joy become your sole priority. Story 26. It feels like a space in my heart is filled. I had all this built-up love, just patiently waiting to give it to the right person. It feels exciting with anticipation and lots of thoughts about it in my free time while asking my friends. After a really fun day together, I have this feeling of amazement, thinking, what if it's never this fun again? Yeah, all kinds of feelings. Story 27. It is painful. You miss her when she is not there. You want to spend time with her doing the most mundane things. You could be content doing nothing. However, I get attached too easily. Story 28. Falling in love for men can be a deeply personal and transformative experience that varies from person to person. For many, it starts with a strong emotional connection and a desire to build a life with someone. It often feels like an intense blend of excitement, vulnerability, and deep affection. Men typically experience a mix of emotional and physical responses, such as constantly thinking about the person, feeling a strong sense of attachment, and wanting to make them happy. The process of falling in love may involve overcoming fears or insecurities and being willing to open up and be truly honest. Overall, falling in love can be a powerful and fulfilling journey, where building a meaningful connection and sharing your life with someone becomes a central focus. Story 29. The comment section is very wholesome. They say falling in love is the best feeling ever, but I don't want to be in love anymore. All men do is give disappointments, heartbreaks, and infections. Story 30. I imagine it's different for everyone, but for me, it feels like being home in the best way, your home, not the unpleasant one you grew up in. Story 31. I can't speak for all men, but it's not an ignition on contact kind of thing. It somewhat creeps up on you. You have feelings for someone, but sometimes you don't notice how deep those feelings are until you step back and look at them for a moment. It usually starts out as a friendship, and you often don't realize it until after you've crossed the boundary between friendship and love. Story 32. It feels like I am falling into a never-ending ditch, almost as if I am losing control of my life and need to regain my composure. Story 33. Everything is gray without her but colorful with her, depending on your treatment of her, and you go above and beyond to maintain that vibrancy. Story 34. If you have ever wondered why men act differently when they like someone, imagine being told to suppress your emotions your entire life. You see someone attractive who treats you well, and then all the emotions you've suppressed come bursting out, leaving you to deal with them alone. Story 35. As a young boy, the first time I experienced love at first sight felt illogical and immature, like being head over heels blinded by love. However, that was a fleeting moment. As a man, it is different. One factor that complicates matters is the woman involved. A man can fall in love, like in a romance movie, or find himself incapable of love, depending on who the woman is and how well they connect. It is a dynamic where both individuals profoundly influence one another. Story 36. It's a fire in your chest that makes you want to wake up earlier and go to sleep later so you can spend more time with her. It makes you pay attention to the way you dress and stand, reminding you that you haven't been to the gym in a while and that maybe it's time to try that skincare routine. Anyone can have sexual fantasies about people, but you know you're in love when what you're fantasizing about is watching movies in bed or brushing your teeth together in the morning. It also tends to wake up all your insecurities and inadequacies, but that all takes a back seat when she's around. Story 37. For me, falling in love was about feeling safe. It was knowing someone had true intentions and wanted the best for me. Someone who wouldn't judge my issues and problems. Story 38. It's like the song La Vie en Rose. You suddenly start noticing small details that you never knew could be so serene. Looking into her eyes makes you feel restless yet calm at the same time. Time flies by quickly when she is with you. You love to listen to her playful remarks. If it's raining, you enjoy getting wet together. If it's sunny, you love watching the clouds together. You want her to be with you. You want her fragrance to be present with you always. You hope that feeling lasts forever, wishing to hold her hand even while you sleep. Story 39. It is as if everything suddenly makes sense. You realize how much everything else matters, not just to you, but to everyone around you. From that understanding, you desire to become a better person, better in the sense that you can give more, be more, and love more. Story 40. As a guy, I know I have fallen in love with a girl if I constantly want to talk to her, seek her attention, think about her, and find that conversation flows easily both in text and in person. She makes me laugh, and I make her laugh in return. We talk from morning to night, regardless of whether she is working or not. She is texting me back, and I am doing the same. I pay attention to what she likes and dislikes, what she fears, and her favorite meals from any restaurant. We call each other and FaceTime every day because, even if we can't be together in person, I cherish having her on my phone. Once I notice I do all of this, I know I am in love. Heartbreak is the worst. That's when you realize you were truly in love. I have experienced this, and I am not lying when I say I have not felt that way about any girl since then. I talk to many girls and have relationships with many, but none of them feel right for love. I am 23 and enjoying life right now while I wait to find another girl who truly rocks my world. Story 41. It's obsessive, cute, and embarrassing. It's like, why am I feeling this way inside? I'm a grown man who weight lifts. Story 42. I felt a strong need to protect and provide for something I didn't know I had in me. It made me a better person in a short amount of time. The words of endearment sounded like they were straight out of a poem. For some reason, my creativity was soaring. I couldn't stop looking into her eyes. I was captivated. I could spend an eternity there and still wouldn't blink. Every flaw was something new to appreciate about her, making me fall even harder. All the beauty in the world couldn't compare to her. It would be an insult. Story 43. Anything you see or do can remind you fondly of them. You find yourself always trying to understand the other person and wishing to help them in any way possible. You start enjoying things they like to bring you two closer. Your desire to improve yourself, for both your sake and theirs, increases significantly. You begin to envision a life with them. You empathize with their emotions. You feel hurt when they are hurt. You sense that there are always more ways to love them, and you become creative with your expressions of love. You are eager to share everything happening in your life, even if it seems trivial, like accidentally dropping your toothbrush in the toilet. You find their quirks endearing. In fact, you can find anything they do charming. You feel an irresistible urge to flirt with them all the time. It comes naturally. You don't tire of boring moments when you both do nothing together. No time spent with them ever feels like enough. These were my feelings. Sadly, I am single now. Story 44. When you find yourself smiling when you receive a text or call asking what you were doing and how you were doing. Story 45. For me, it gradually became a desire to be with her more than to be alone or with friends. She became part of my plans for going out and doing fun activities. I often thought about and wanted to include her whenever I did something enjoyable or interesting without her. Unfortunately, the love was not reciprocated, but it was nice to feel that way about someone and to know I could experience those emotions. Being in love feels, well, lovely. Story 46. For me, it wasn't something that just happened. It was a gradual process of realizing that she did little things for me and made room for me in her life. For example, we had been dating on and off for about a month. She had older children, which complicated things, but we made it work. One day, after a particularly rough day at work, I didn't feel like cooking. I mentioned that I was having a hard time figuring out what to do for dinner, and while we were talking, I fell asleep in my recliner watching TV. Then I heard my doorbell ring and thought, who was at my door at 8? My house was in a cul-de-sac, and I didn't particularly want to deal with a salesman. To my surprise, she had been cooking and brought dinner over to my house, which was totally unexpected and very much appreciated. Bit by bit, she made her way into my everyday life, and before I knew it, I was spending more time with her than anyone else. She accepts my quirks, and we have been together for 8 years, living together for 7. We have dealt with multiple family deaths, forced job changes during a pandemic, and the challenges of co-parenting with her ex-husband. She relocated to an area of the state she wasn't thrilled about because I had to. However, we are happy, her children love me, and I can't imagine my life without her. She likes to joke that she fed me, and I kept coming around. Story 47. I will always remember her. She was my co-teacher and the only person my age in the building, so naturally, we spent a lot of time together. I never even realized I had feelings for her. I just loved spending the days working with her and hanging out. Then one day, out of the blue, I found myself thinking, I love her. Of course, I kept it to myself, but she is the reason I smile. Story 48. The sight of their smile makes you complete. The sound of their laugh makes you forget any other feeling. The smell of their body makes you want to hold them forever until you starve. The feeling of their touch on your hand makes your arm tingle, as if just a brush from their fingers is a massage for your entire body. You can't help but notice every detail about them. The exact color and pattern of their eyes, the tone of their skin, the texture of their lips, the birthmark on their arm, their hair, their ears, their neck. It is all so perfect in your eyes. You can't help but listen to every word they say as if it is the last one you will ever hear. The changes in their tone, the gestures of their hands. It is all so perfect from your perspective. You feel like you could survive on just their hugs, their jokes, their secrets, their advice. Feels like you do not need anything else. That is how it feels to fall in love. But then you fear. You fear that they will not reciprocate your feelings, fear that they will leave if you tell them, that you will not be able to look at them again or listen to them again. But you still want to. You feel like this confession is the heaviest burden you have ever carried. the sharpest dagger you have ever felt. Yet it feels like doing so would make you so free, so happy, and so sad. You prepare yourself, thinking of which words to say and how to say them. Yet you know very well you will break as soon as you open your mouth. Your tongue feels heavy. Your eyes swell from tears you are holding back. Every fiber of your being shakes from the fear of unknown possibilities. Can you really tell them? That is how it feels to realize you have fallen in love. Story 49. The only time I fell in love, it was reciprocated. For me, it was a peace that permeated my consciousness, a high that wouldn't crash or fall, a happiness that colored my worldview. I have been with her for almost 35 years now, and I suspect those feelings are still there, but they have become my baseline. Story 50. I've encountered a few different phases. At the beginning, I generally don't realize it. I just have a good time around someone, and someday I get this epiphany. As soon as I find out what is going on, a state of confusion and delusion starts to settle in. I trap myself in a cycle of randomly admiring her, overanalyzing past events, and questioning what I want to do about all of this. I don't always act on my emotions, and especially when I decide not to act on them, the confusion and delusion worsen. In their company, I usually start to act more consciously, though that doesn't change my behavior much. At the same time, I find myself in a sort of peaceful calm, caught between satisfaction and joy around them. Depending on the actual relationship or situation, some parts are more or less intense. Generally speaking, though, it is more or less torture for me, as I am not very good with emotions in general, and especially if it has to do with social situations. I usually rationalize everything and navigate my day that way. However, since humans and emotions are not rational, this becomes a problem. Story 51. It's been a long time, so I don't remember all the details, but I recall spending my free time just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling with no music playing, simply thinking about her. Story 52. I am still waiting for it. I hope it arrives sooner rather than later, especially considering how everyone has described it so far. Story 53. It feels like a significant risk. Most men I know fall deeply in love when they do. Unfortunately, I rarely see it work out for anyone anymore. Story 54. Realizing that I would do everything in my power to keep this person safe and make them happy. Story 55. Many of us immediately start thinking about all the effort required to pursue, attain, and maintain that love. It requires dedication. Story 56. It's similar to how imprinting is described in Twilight. She becomes your center, and you would do anything to keep it that way. Story 57. You see a woman for the first time. She smiles at you, and you would do anything for her. Men may feel that if they don't end up with her, it would be a disaster. Having a job, a house, and money means nothing if they cannot be with her. This feeling is similar to how women feel about shoes. Story 58. Love songs make sense. You look forward to hearing from them. The smallest gesture, though insignificant to some, means the world to you. You will find many people to love in a lifetime. The hardest relationship is the one with ourselves. Story 59. I remember asking myself after we met, what just happened there? All the clubs and groups I've joined, all the blind dates, all the times I asked some female friends to take it to the next level, all the late night outings, and I meet this girl rushing in to get some groceries. I strike up a conversation about spices to add to a crock dish. I knew it was game over for my single life before I even left the aisle. That was over 25 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. Story 60. Like falling into a swimming pool. 1 minute you are dry, then suddenly you are in deep, surrounded by water, and it is everywhere. Unlike falling into a pool, you have no desire to come up for air. Story 61. If I could go back to describing it, I would say it's like caring without the need to feel caring. It's like providing without the need to feel like you're providing. It's as if you're close to her, yet she still feels distant. You can't stop talking to her and desire more of her even after you've had so much. It's a feeling that you never want to end. Story 62. It's unnoticeable at first. It takes a while before the realization comes. It starts with a rush of joy every time they appear, thinking about them constantly, feeling excited to share something wonderful as soon as it happens, and putting in extra effort to keep a smile on her face. Unfortunately, most people won't ever realize they were in love until it's gone. Story 63. For me, it's intense. I fall in love easily when I find someone who is my type, and it's somewhat like a drug. When I am in love with someone, they become the main subject of my thoughts most of the time and the first thing I think of in the morning. I feel like many men do not experience this after reading some responses here, which I find a bit sad because it feels so great. Story 64. I feel at ease. Being around her is so comfortable that it doesn't feel like a chore that drains my social battery. I appreciate being with a woman who accepts me for who I am, flaws and all. When I am with her, nothing else matters. It feels natural to share my space and time with her in our moments of bliss. Story 65. It's basically lying on a couch with a Bud Light in one hand and a beautiful woman smiling at you while you are watching a football game. Story 66. From my conversation with a woman, I can definitively say that it is exactly the same thing, except a stranger shows up and hands you an extra greasy bacon burger. If only I could fall in love more often. I am feeling a bit hungry now. Story 67. It's difficult because what if they don't feel the same way? Or what if they fall out of love with you? Story 68. Amazing until you experience abandonment issues. A girl I used to talk to asked me this, so I gave her an analogy. When you're in love, it's like water. You will always need it, want it, and cannot survive without it. Story 69. It's like an enduring warmth. Feels as though she's a magnet and I'm a horseshoe. Spending more time with her feels like being home. I look forward to experiencing that again. Story 70. The physical sensation is simply horniness, and everything else is a narrative we create in our minds to motivate us to want to sleep with someone. These narratives are heavily influenced by the media we were exposed to as children, such as Disney movies and romantic comedies. Story 71. It's scary and exciting because this person has such a hold over my emotions and can make or break my day. It hurts when I know I can't be with her. Story 72. At this point, I dislike it because it usually leads to my heart being hurt, so I choose to ignore it. It has always been one-sided in my life, so I can't deal with it anymore. I have other aspects of my life to focus on. I don't need heartbreak right now. Story 73. For too many men, falling in love is getting stuck in an idea of some ideal in one's mind, rather than connecting with a feeling. I definitely do not mean some dopamine response in one's head. Story 74. I never really fell in love outside of elementary school, where I had butterflies in my stomach and my heart racing every time I saw her. Sadly, it wasn't mutual. After that, I never felt that way again. Story 75. Suddenly, I was okay with not achieving my ambitions and goals, which I had been obsessively pursuing, at the cost of my personal well-being. Story 76. Like the way some describe opioids, your whole life feels like you are consistently on a treadmill. It's the first time you get off the treadmill and sit down. Story 77. Like the ocean being pulled by an unseen force called the moon, wanting to crash and submerge the land without drowning it. It breaks worlds and creates others. It's like gravity. Story 78. It would be like getting strangely attracted to your love interest in a way you don't understand. That feeling of starting to care for someone, at least for me, is rare because I usually focus on my own interests like my games or updates. However, when I fell in love, I became more thoughtful about that person, considering how to communicate and feeling upset if they weren't taking care of themselves. Story 79. I played tennis with a group of friends once, and there was a girl with whom I became good friends. I missed a night because I had a really bad day and didn't feel up to it. I ran into her a few days later, and she jokingly got mad at me, saying she missed me and I better be at the next one, or else. Her cheeks became rosy, possibly due to a medical condition, and suddenly, I was head over heels. It didn't work out. She struggled with communication, and I had attachment issues I was unaware of, but I still find it humorous to look back on how it all started. Don't develop strong feelings for people you aren't dating, especially if they are a friend. Story 80. It is not that much different from women, but without the concerns of what my new name would sound like or the process of picking out my children's names. Story 81. When men have goals, they sometimes falter. However, when they are in love, they will do whatever it takes to succeed for their loved ones. Story 82. It's when she gives you a hug and an unprompted kiss that you know she is the one. When you are willing to lay down your life for her, you do not want to let her go. Story 83. There she was, and I had no idea what was about to hit me. I was in the most tumultuous time of my life, yet I felt calm and safe, as if I didn't have to hide anything. Everything was easy to discuss. We are married, and sometimes we don't agree or one of us inadvertently hurts the other. But there is a fundamental feeling or connection that remains, which I can't adequately describe. Even when I'm angry, hurt, or sad, I am committed to showing up and making things right. Story 84. Have you ever had a set of new candles from Bath and Body Works, a warm apple pie, and an evening all alone? Story 85. When you can't believe how lucky you are to have someone like them in your life loving you back. When you would do anything for them, and when they make you realize how easy it is to be a better version of yourself, that is how you know it is true. Story 86. I feel so at ease with her because there is nothing I am afraid to show or tell her. I can share everything, knowing she will accept me for who I am. She has demonstrated so many times that she can handle a lot and is accepting of me. I had an operation, and it was clear she was there, waiting for me and gathering all the information from the doctors. We have been together for 5 months, but it feels like we are already married, and I feel at ease thinking of her as my wife. She has been there for me, and I have been there for her. In my heart, it feels like she is my soulmate, best friend, and the love of my life. Story 87. Wow, this is all so gorgeous. I don't think I've ever been loved like that by a man. My granddaughter starts laughing and calling my name when she sees me. After hugging and kissing me, she tells everyone who I am. That feels like love. But I don't think a man has ever truly loved me. Why doesn't that make me sad? You have really made me think about how men feel. Story 88. A terrifying feeling of loss of control is followed by a lot of self-reflection to understand my feelings. Finally, there is the release of expressing it and hoping it is reciprocated. Story 89. Men are the absolute cutest and purest in love. Women are not as cute and pure when they are in love. It is really like dogs and cats. We still love men. It's just different. Story 90. If we could post GIFs, I would use the one where Mr. Bean says, "Magic." What is wrong with these questions flooding the Ask Men subreddit? Story 91. The feeling of becoming vulnerable was the most challenging aspect for me. Even physically experiencing it felt strange. Story 92. This person is quite attractive and really cool. I would like to do more things with them and wonder if they are interested. I hope they are okay and happy. I truly want them to be happy and succeed. I will become the best version of myself so I can be the best for them. It is terrifying yet honest and beautiful. Story 93. Honestly, it's as if your world shifts around that person, and that's all you can think about. It's sheer happiness, but on another level. Story 94. Moving from Chicago to Jamaica can evoke a range of feelings. It largely depends on her level of intelligence. I'm not saying she needs to be the smartest person, but at least possess some common sense. Story 95. It is hard for me to express this. I cannot describe it. I love making her happy, and I strive to improve because of her. It is a beautiful feeling. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.